everyone, it's Sarah Berry from stampwithsarah.co.uk. Today I want to show you how to make this cool sliding chocolate treat pouch, which is great to make and give away for Christmas to perhaps teachers and your neighbours, maybe colleagues. So I've taken inspiration from the Terry's Chocolate Orange chocolate bar inside and used the Mango Melody cardstock. Now you can get 2 of these treat holders out of 1 piece of A4 cardstock, and the starting size we want is 4 1/4. Oops, hang on. There we go. 4 1/4 by 6 inches. I'm not on a flat surface, sorry. There we go. Now starting with the 4 1/4 inch side, you want to score at 1/2 inch, 1 7/8, 2 3/8, 3 3/4 inches. So what we've created is the flaps at the side pieces, the front and the back. Then turn it so we've got the 6 inch side across the top. And you want to score at 1/2 and then score at 4. Now here's my little helpful sheet. We want to be cutting some of this away. So we want to first of all get rid of this bottom left corner. That will give us an extra flap and we don't want that. Cut up the 3 lines on the left side here. Get rid of this bottom piece, this bottom flap. We don't need that bit. And then these 3 here, these top 3 along this right side, we don't need those either. I don't know if you noticed that I'm cutting along the score line. You can see you could cut directly in the middle of this score line, but I find it gives you a little sort of dipped piece where you've scored it. So I like to cut along the edge nearest to the piece of cardstock that I'm keeping. Otherwise I just feel it makes it look a little bit neater, a little bit smarter finish. There we go. So that's all the pieces that we've cut out. So if I place it on top of there, you can see. Now, on my template example, I've got a little piece here that's been cut out. So if you take a sponge mat, you could also do this with a little die if you have a big sharp machine. If you have a little die that's like a little slot, you could use that as well. But I found the easiest thing to do is just use a pricking tool and work along that score line, and you just want to do about 1/2 inch. You just go a little bit that way, a little bit that way. And this is just to accommodate this ribbon. So as long as you go as wide as the ribbon that you're using, that's great. You don't need to go any wider. And then just pop the tool in and give it a little wiggle. It's not the neatest of finishes, but if you make sure that this is the back and then this is all hidden inside, I reckon you can get away with it. If you aren't happy with that, take your scissors and just give it a little trim, and you'll find that you can get rid of all of that little bit in there. But as it's just going to be inside the chocolate, I don't really mind so much that it's going to be there. Okay, so that's that little piece. And it's important that you do that because that piece really acts as the little stopper when we're pulling out the chocolate. We get so far and then the chocolate won't come out because that ribbon is trapped in there. So use your bone folder and just bring those lines that you've scored on up. Make sure they're nice and neat, nice and square. Okay. And then we'll do the same with these flaps. Make sure they're nice and square. And then fold this section over, because this is the front. We want our join line towards the back of our little treat pouch. So stick some, I'm just using tear and tape. I find that it really does the job perfectly well. Stick it along that top line. Fold any excess tape over, fold it back in on itself. And at this point I try and give it another press with my bone folder so I know it's all going to be sitting nice and square. There we go. And then at this point we want to fold in the bottom. Make sure you've got the back, so you fold in the flaps, you fold in the back piece, and then you fold in the front. Again, I use the tear and tape. You can use wet glue like our Tombow adhesive, but I really like this stuff. I think it holds your boxes really nicely. Fold in the excess tape and fold it down. So there's our little box to hold our chocolate. So we want to take the ribbon, and to work out how much you need to pop sort of double up on the ribbon, wrap it round the chocolate like that. All right, and then you'll want to make sure you have enough at the top to tie yourself a bow or a knot. This is the Night of Navy gingham. Now take one of those ribbons and thread it through the little slot that we made. Oh, I've forgotten to show you something. I'm getting excited. So you want, I don't know if I can do it now, I've glued it together. Oh, I can. So just pop your scallop in here, in this punch. This is the scallop tag topper punch, and please do punch the top before you glue your box together, but it will just slit up in there. Push it as far as it will go, line it up so it's fairly even, and punch, and then that just gives us a nice nice neat finish. I'm just going to make sure those curve round. There we go. Okay, so then thread your ribbon through, and then through this little hole that the punch creates. You want to slip your chocolate in. Just make sure this ribbon is nice and flat. Slip the chocolate in. And then you want to make sure you can pull these ribbons and just make them even. So make sure they measure the same length. Just helps you when you come to tie your bow. And then we can tie on a knot, a double knot. You can tie a bow, depending on the finish that you want. And that is just keeping that chocolate in the box. There we go. Adjust those bows, give it a nice adjustment there, and then you can just finish off the legs of the bow. Okay, so to decorate, I'm using the stocking from the Great Joy stamp set that I showed you, and stamping it on thick whisper white in the Memento Tuxedo Black. It's quite a big stamp actually, and we've been making Christmas cards, the boys and I have been making Christmas cards using this because it's quite a good stamp set to colour in with your children and your grandchildren. So before I cut this out, I'm going to colour, and I've just taken some of our blends, and we have I've just taken one of each of these colours. You don't have to have the light and the dark for this. I'm literally just using them as like a felt tip crayon, so I'm just colouring them in. Whether you use the brush tip or the bullet tip, it's up to you. I'm going over these lines because I want to cut this out. And I'm going to go up to the line as much as I can. Like that. One thing I've noticed when I'm colouring these, if you have the colours quite close together, like this blue here, and then I'm going to colour these circles in with another colour. So I'm going to use the yellow. I'm just going to give this a little while, because otherwise if you put the yellow directly on now with the blue, you'll find that your circles go like a little bit of a greeny colour, but that's because these two pens are designed to blend together. So if we don't want the colours to blend and then obviously the colours mix and they create this lovely green colour, just give it a little while, just give it a little while to dry. We've got holly in the middle, so this is a Cherry Cobbler dark pen I'm using for the holly. And then I've got Call Me Clover for the for the holly leaves. There we go. And now that blue should have dried by now, so I'm going to colour in these circles with the Mango Melody. Across this sort of patchwork detail. And now straight away I'm going back in with the pumpkin pie. I'm just colouring in these squares just to give it a little bit of detail. Just a shade darker really, isn't it? Okay, and then that's ready for you to cut out. So because I've gone up to the line with the blend and like over the line, I'm just literally cutting on the stamped line. On my sample before, I left a slight edge, and I wanted to try this technique because I thought it would be easier to do, and also I think it gives you a neater finish with your colouring in. So if you do go over the lines, it doesn't matter, and you can just trim it off, and then nobody's ever going to know that they've coloured over these lines. So perhaps that's something you can do when you have a go at this. I think it really does work, and it gives you a better finish. There we go. Brill, I love that. I think that is a slight improvement. I mean, it doesn't show that I could go back in and chop this off actually, look. Yeah, I just think it makes it look better personally, but obviously it's completely up to you what you do. Okay, so lastly we'll just add these on to the front just with a couple of foam pads. They really don't need a lot. I mean, these things are just going to be something that you give and then you eat and then you put in the bin, unless you like to keep everything. So don't flood it with foam pads because it will be a waste otherwise. So there we go, one little treat, chocolate slider treat here. I really love them. Obviously it's not just for Christmas, you can use this design all year round, provided that the chocolates are the similar size and thickness, Something like a dairy milk chocolate bar would be perfectly fine all year round, or a little individual galaxy bar too. So I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I've inspired you to get creative and make something inspired by this. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment on my blog or in my YouTube's description below. Thanks again. I'll see you very soon. Bye.